they're going through a difficult state. People want to know, when is it over, or what to do next, or what's going to happen next. Do you find that's true, Robert?
Absolutely true. And you know, it's fascinating the way that you're expressing this, because I think it's like most people, I think, approach astrology and astrologers, tell me what's going to happen to me. And that's a really passive approach to living. And it can be dangerous, because there are a lot of people out there, as you know, who read some books and they call themselves an astrologer, and that's fine. And I'm glad that they do. But they may or may not know what they're talking about. And even when a person is highly skeptical and they go to an astrologer, a part of them, the little boy or little girl inside of them, is saying, ooh, what's he going to tell me? They're frightened. And they want to hear good things. And they're curious. They want to hear what's going to happen to me. What I do, because I will ask about events, especially going back in the past. I will, to make sure I have an accurate midheaven. But I'm very conscious about phrasing things about this might be, or this is likely to be. I don't want it to sound fatalistic, because in truth it isn't. And the minute that we hear something consciously, for example, if you look at a horoscope and you say, oh my gosh, here's an accident-prone period coming up. Well, some astrologers will say, you know, you're very likely to have an accident on August 23rd. All right, that's a setup for them to have the accident, really. Even people who don't believe in astrology, that goes in the subconscious, they heard it, and bingo. On the other hand, if you take a different approach and say, you know, around this period, there's about a week here, around August 23rd, just on either side. Pay attention, because you're under some Mars aspects here. If you are out and about driving, you're going to hear a lot of sirens and see fire trucks and cops. The minute you hear a siren, ambulances, think, aha, there's that Mars. And just become conscious, slow down. Don't speak hastily. Don't get into confrontations that you can avoid. Don't leave late so that you're rushing through traffic. Just take it easy in this period, because you're very likely to be triggered easily or distracted easily in this period. And you don't want to have a fender bender. That's a whole other approach.
That's so funny that you're saying that we're having a Pluto and Mars conjunction right now.
Yes. Boy, are we. You know, I'll tell you, and this is a horrible story to tell on myself, but it was very valuable to me. And I've told this class, this in workshops. Oh gosh, years and years ago, I was reading for a young man, my age then probably, and his wife was in the hospital having their baby. And I don't know, Cindy, maybe 4 years into doing this. And I asked him, I said, is this child yours? Now, it didn't occur to me what I had just done until after I left, but he said, no, it isn't, but we know, and it's fine, and we're going to have it anyway. Well, I got away from that session and I realized, Bob, don't ever do that again. All you were doing really was showing off that you could do it. And what if you had been wrong? What if you had been wrong and planted the seed in his mind that this might not be his baby? What if he didn't know? Thank God he knew, because that could have destroyed a marriage. You're saying that. And it's true, it could have. So I took away a very valuable lesson from that.
No, it's true. And most astrologers don't realize that you can impact the psyche and implant, a belief system.
Absolutely.
That could be roaming, and it could be damaging for them and living in fear, where it should be astrology, a healing path, not an obstacle.
And a creative path. It's exactly what I will often, because I've done it with myself. It's how I got into television writing after doing this, nothing but astrology for 15 years. I saw an aspect coming up in my birth horoscope Pluto transit, you'll know what this is, once in a lifetime. What do you want to do with, that's my approach. What do you want to do with this? Pluto is going to be going over your midheaven and your top of your chart here. What do you want to do? Gee, I'd like to get into television writing, which I did under that aspect and loved it. Probably one of the happiest days in my life was when I first walked on the lot at Universal.
Congratulations.
That was heaven. But that's the approach. Now, by the same token, there are things that come along in astrology. There are a lot of pressure and challenging that you have to deal with. How do I want to deal? What's the best way I can do? And gosh almighty, the horoscope gives you such a perspective on what about this option? What about that option? Which of these two is better? Just like leasing or buying that car, which is a very simple example. But even for deeper problems, it's so enlightening. And it gives you the sense of understanding the whole situation from say, a larger perspective, so that the choices you make feel much more certain and confident for you.
It's very true when it comes to that point. And we can talk about like how astrologers could be presenting in areas of relationships. For example, somebody coming in and say, is this the guy that I should be with, or is he going to stick around? Do we voice those opinion based on that or not? Or do they actually have free will to work it out? Even though this person might not have the compatibility to be in a relationship at all. And Western astrology is very good when it comes to synastry. I know that in Vedic astrology or Indian astrology, they say, well, if a woman has Mars, exalted Mars in the 7th house, then you shouldn't get with her, right? She's too aggressive, unless you both have it, right? And that's who you guys are compatible.
Well, that could be. And also, she might be, if it's a woman who has Mars exalted in Capricorn, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the 7th house, then tell her, look, it's fine for you to go for the bestest and the brightest, because you're not going to settle for anything less. You'll make his life miserable if he is. You want the toppest dog you can find in the kennel. And so don't be afraid. Look, it's just as easy to fall in love with people who have money as it is to fall in love with somebody who's homeless. And for her, that's the key. If she has Mars in Capricorn and the man that she is dating has a really sketchy job history and is driving a 1984 Beetle, probably not the guy for her. I don't care how good he is in bed, how charismatic he is. Probably not the guy. And I do, Cindy, try and stay away from making decisions for people. I will lay out alternatives and which looks the best and so on. But there are astrologers that don't even think about dating this guy. Well, I'm not that astrologer.
That's really important, because that's where the person needs to, they were in their life for a reason.
Yes.
And there's certain lesson, like how you were saying, Uranus is supposed to impact them in a positive way. They will shed their skin like, a scorpion or a snake.
Yes.
Just coming out, because if you take that away from them, who are they without a story like your story? Just like your story, how you experienced relationship. And if you didn't have that experience, who would you be today?
Yeah, exactly. And also, if I didn't understand myself through astrology and psychology as well as I do, first of all, I like myself. And it's not an egotistical thing. I just genuinely do. In fact, I just the other day got off the phone with the wife of both of these I've known forever. So they've known me forever. And she and I were talking about life. I'm 73, I'll be 74, she's 71. I found myself, she said to me, Cindy, over the phone, she said, "You are in a really good place, aren't you? I can hear it in your voice." And I said, yeah, I am. It's amazing to me at this age. I walk around at night when I'm up a lot doing consultations or working, writing. I get up out of the chair at my desk to go get a cup of coffee or something, thinking, my God, what a life. What a life. So when I say I like myself, I absolutely love the process of living this lifetime. And it's not that I haven't had hardships and sorrow and all of that. We all do. And I think too, it's important, Cindy, as an astrologer, you look at these planets, these archetypes, everybody has them in common. We all have the same archetypes. They're just arranged differently. They're just emphasized differently. But inside, we are all the same archetypes. So it helps, I think, and with somebody like me, for example, Saturn the 7th, I partly because of the family in which I was raised, I avoid that kind of intimacy, that kind of closeness. It feels like prison to me. I have Saturn in Cancer, and one of the old rules of thumb with that is tell that person to get as far away as fast as they can from their birth family and birth situation. Well, that sounds like an old cliche, but it was certainly true in my case. So that's just me, but it's not my fate. So what she said to me, I thought, it's amazing to be this age and to be conscious that I have had sustained happiness for so long now. And it's all due to this kind of self-understanding, I think, that astrology gives you.
It's so true. Your story about how astrology found you didn't find astrology, right? You didn't go looking for it.
No.
Same with me. I have the same story. I didn't go looking for it. I'm like, what's this? And it just appeared and it happened and it stuck with me. And no matter how hard I divorce it, it just kept coming back.
Which I guess is meant to tell you something.
Yeah, it's supposed to be part of your life. And you're supposed to do something with it, right, Robert? And you did something with it. You went out and learned.
Well, Cindy, I am such a skeptic by nature. I truly am. I've got Mercury in Virgo. Show me, show me, show me. Prove it, prove it, prove it. So, as you know, when I was 20 and had gone to Los Angeles to be an actor, I was standing in the astrology section of Pickwick Books on Hollywood Boulevard one evening about dusk, looking at these astrology books, and and I know why I was there. I was thinking, gee, maybe one of these books will tell me if I'm going to be rich and famous. Very spiritual, right? And a total stranger walked over to me, this man. Well, I was an actor at that point already, Screen Actors Guild, Actors Equity, and this guy says to me, "You're a Libra, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." Now I'm thinking, well, he could be a casting director, who knows? And he said, "You're also an astrologer." And I said, No, I'm not, I'm an actor. And he said, "Well, you may be an actor, but what you really are is an astrologer, and the book you want isn't here. It's not in print. Come with me to the front desk and let me give you this book title," which he did, wrote it down, told me to go to Larry Edmunds' used bookstore and find this book, which I did. And the book was very thick. It taught you how to set up your horoscope and how to interpret it. I don't know what I was expecting, but when I got to a chapter on my moon in Aries, in my third house, opposite my sun in Libra, and it said, "You have a mole mark or a scar on the left side of your head or face," which I do, "from age 5, which I do. And I just sat up bolt right. I thought, how can this old book know that I have now you can't see this scar. It's a hairline scar, but it's from age 5. And by the way, from a neighbor, a girl who was about 10, swinging a golf club, and it was a Saturday, and I was about 7, and walked up behind her. She didn't see me coming, and she just kept swinging, taking chip shots with this 9-iron, and hit me in the face, right under my left eye, which I could have lost my eyesight, but I didn't, thank God. So there's really no sky, but I'm reading, how can this old book, so that alone, Cindy, that one specific fact awakened all of my curiosity. I thought, come on, how can this be? And I haven't stopped since.
Wow, I love that story, how you found astrology, because they identify something on your body that nobody knew, specifically at an age. Yeah, astrology is so amazing. I had the same experience, just picked up the book, or I had this book since I was probably 10 years old. I had an astrology book, and I've been carrying this book for years, and I moved it all around for many, many years. And then I think at a certain age, I start reading about it, and I didn't understand it. And it kept coming back to me. It kept, like, every time I moved, it just kept coming with me. So eventually, through my university years, I actually finished the book. And I was saying, like, okay, well, that was that, and that was cool, and let's explore what else is out there. And then I started reading about sun sign. I know that you want to mention a little bit about sun sign, about relationship compatibility, and that's very popular. Like, you pick up the newsletter and then you talk about sun sign, and that's astrology. But the book that I read was a little bit more in depth. It had Mercury and Saturn and Jupiter involved, and they're like, and the newspaper was like a watered down version, and it was like, which one is true? So I started doing charts and stuff like that. So did you want to touch base on the sun sign?
Well, that's always fun, and it's certainly great fun to do at parties. There's a better way to work at parties, but still, sun sign astrology is valid as far as it goes. But it also, I think, gives the impression that astrology is simple and kind of superficial, which it is not. And what really matters, the sun is important, but what people are on a day-to-day basis is their moon sign.
Yeah.
If you think of the sun, the symbol for it, it's a circle with a dot in the center. I think of the sun sign as a target. So we're all born with this target. In my case, my life aim is to become a Libra. Everybody says you're born a Libra. Well, it's true. I was born October 1st, but the sun is a target. And so in your case, it's Gemini, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you are born to be a Gemini. So all of your life, now your sun will progress, and move into other signs as you age, but you're still a Gemini from birth. You're aiming to be more and more and better a Gemini for your whole life. And what house is this in? Yeah.
Oh, it will be my second house.
Well, that's the best house. That house has a lot to do with self-worth and, of course, money. But so your whole life is based on maximizing your incredible mind, which goes a mile a minute and is all about connecting this with this and that one with this one and me with that. And it never stops with the connection and the networking, just like we're doing here. And how to because that is your self-worth. You are about bridging people together. Gemini rules bridges, for example. So even in what you're doing with your relationship business and career, that's what that's about. And Gemini, of course, is the sign of communications. Online, like we're doing, written, in person, wherever you go. And the versatility, this ability to know not just a little about a lot, but actually a lot about a lot. The versatility lets you be able to talk with just about anybody and to relate to just about anybody. So all of your life, you'll hear this incredible variety of human beings that come to you and that you go to. So putting yourself which is the second house, at the center of your career is optimal for you. You're very much about being a self-made woman, and you always will be. So travel figures into this because that's part and parcel of Gemini too. Where's your moon?
Libra. I'm connected.
Oh,
Right on top of yours.
oh.
That's our symmetry right there.
Well, and you know, it's with the moon in Libra, there really is that. I mean, what you are on a day-to-day basis is your moon sign. My moon happens to be in Aries, which is completely the opposite of Libra. But with your sun, and of course your sun and moon are in harmony, being both in air signs, which is great. But the moon in Libra really does make relationships very important in your life. And what do you do for a living? Bingo. The funny thing about Libras, and you know, when I first started out, and still to this day, it is the sign of marriage and partnerships. And you read in the books about Libra. Well, I have never known more single people in any one sign than Libras. It's amazing how many Libra people, and they actually kind of prefer it that way, which is contrary to the books. But who you are, you know, as a day-to-day person, if you got that moon in Libra, you're much, how to put this? First of all, your environment and surroundings have to be beautiful and harmonious. Otherwise, it really can throw you completely out of whack. So you like to have beautiful things, beautiful people, beautiful things to wear, and beautiful surroundings. But with the moon in Libra, you're a counselor at heart.
Yeah.
And so you're doing exactly, and also with Gemini, it usually will indicate somebody who either runs two or more businesses simultaneously, or if they have a day gig, as we say, a regular job, they also have a sideline that's entrepreneurial, or the career that they are involved with involves a tremendous variety of functions and people, because they bore easily. You do. So that the need for variety and change and dealing with different people and different functions every day and day and day, that's what appeals to you, as opposed to, now you went for accounting. Not that you wouldn't be good at it, but to be stuck at a desk doing other people's paperwork, that's not that you're not good at it, but that's not taking care of all the needs that you have to be with people and to be counseling people with some kind of, you know, I mean, both of those are air signs, so you live in your head just like I do.
So yeah, astrology, because you just imagine when I first saw it or heard about it, and was like, this is so woo-woo. I need something logical.
Well, this is what I've found. You know, the sun signs can be in terrific harmony between a man and a woman, or, you know, two people. It's the moon signs, because the moon is who we are on a day-to-day basis. The moon is who we are when we're at home. And if the moon signs are out of whack, that's tough. The people's expectations and habits and the way they live on a day-to-day intimate basis are in conflict, and it's never going to be easy. Even though you're reading the books, oh, Libra sun, Gemini sun, match made in heaven. Well, maybe, maybe not. Depends on where the moons are.
Yeah.
And then you can also have people whose sun signs are in square or opposition. Opposition actually is pretty good for relationships, but square. And the books will tell you, well, this is not a good match. On the other hand, if their moons are conjunct heaven, yes, they're different. Completely different, but boy, do they get along. So it can be that kind of couple. And love, you know, I mean, it's, you know better than I do, especially in your business, how complicated and complex love and marriage are. I heard something astonishing in this past 6 weeks from a couple that I've known for a long, long time. I didn't hear this directly, and they're both Scorpios. And both in the medical field. She was a nurse and he's been a cardiovascular surgeon. She told a dear friend of mine, she said, you know, I have always loved him, but I've never been in love with him. And I've never really heard anybody say, I know what that is, but I hadn't really heard anybody say that. And it just showed me once again how different, love. With me, I'm Venus in Scorpio, lousy position for it. And you can read that in the textbooks. But the reason it's lousy, just superficially, is because A, it is a loner. And B, deep down, if it has any so-called afflictions at all in the horoscope, it is hyper aware of not being controlled by love or a boss or anything else. And as a consequence of that, it does the controlling. And it's all unconscious because it's Scorpio. It's not rational. And so I'm reading this stuff about myself in these books about what? I'm not jealous. Okay.
Possessive, slightly possessive, slightly.
Just maybe a little, and I'm not controlling, just a little bit. So, again, there, astrology is kind of pointing some things out, I think, to me and to anybody that are worth paying attention to.
Yeah. It's totally true because.
But, and did you want to talk about sun signs and dating, or what did you mean?
Sure. You were mentioning about sun sign, about compatibility, I think, or.
Well, let's start with you.
I like how I'm being put in the center of this.
Why not?
Which is.
I've already revealed everything there is to know about me.
I know.
But no, really, as a Gemini, it's a fascinating, the cardinal sin in a relationship. Geminis really need a partner who is stable and practical and down to earth. But that bores them if they're not careful, because they like change and variety. Well, that's not practical and down to earth.
And you can talk about the Gemini sign because it's actually a man and a woman.
Now, let me tell you, yes, there are differences. As a Gemini woman, and I'm assuming that you're over 20. Okay, just want to double check. The older you get, don't be unwilling to date men and even marry a man who is younger than you. You will always be young, whatever age you are, and you'll always look young. But your mind and your mentality and even your physicality is younger than your years, and the energy that a younger man, as you get older. Now, when you were younger, it's the reverse. Very often, Gemini women will look to an older man, to give them the wisdom but also the security and the maturity and all of that stuff. Geminis, I love them because they do mature, but they're never, as a rule, stodgy or mature in that old fuddy-duddy. They just don't get there because they're so interested in so many things, and they need a partner who can keep up with that. And they are changeable. Let's go to dinner. Great. Where are we going to go? Okay, everybody gets dressed up. No, you get in the car. Let's go. So suddenly the plans change. So anybody that's going to be with you has to be prepared for it's a wonderful way to live because you're open to so much, new and exciting.
I love it. It's totally true. Especially when you have a moon in Libra, it's also the scale.
Yes. Well, this is why I mentioned to you the sun sign is like a target. So I console myself saying, Bob, astrology didn't say you were balanced. It said you're trying to be balanced. And there's a difference. There's a difference. But that rule of thumb with the moons, if the moon signs are not compatible, it does make for a more difficult kind of relationship than if they are harmonious. So I pay more attention really to the moon signs, and especially in a woman's chart. Generally, women actually personify their moon signs and tend to look outwardly to men to represent their sun signs, whereas men tend to do the opposite. They look for women who will embody their moon sign for them, while they more identify with their sun signs. And I do identify with Libra, I really do. In my case, though, I had Moon in Aries, Cindy, and my mother, both of my parents really were very strong figures, and I loved them for it. I like strong people. And my mother, well, she's dead now, so we can talk. But I never knew this growing up. You know, the association that Aries has with Mars and with knives and injuries and all of this stuff. She had a very difficult, both of my parents had a very difficult childhood. I did not know until I was 50
Wow.
that my mother had actually assaulted our father with knives. Growing up in the household, you know, as a child, you know how people are. They can hide these things. Never knew it. So if an astrologer had told me that, I would have said, you're off your rocker. No, my father's sister told me that. Many years later, I was 50 before I ever knew that. But the minute I heard it, she said, you don't want to hear this. And I said, sure I do. I'm a writer. I can hear this. And it explained a lot to me about my mother.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I've never assaulted anybody with a knife, so I don't take after her in that regard.
You know, no, it's true, because in Vedic astrology, moon represent your mom, your mother, or Mars is another way. And when it's in Aries, Aries is a warrior sign, and what a warrior carry, a gun or a knife.
That's exactly right.
Right?
And you know what you just said is so valuable, this warrior idea. I'm dealing with a client, a couple now. She's a Libra, he's a Sag. He's a retired doctor. He's also bipolar. And when I first looked at his horoscope, I asked him, I was kind of beating around the bush, but that was, he owned right up to it. He has been, I guess, since college. But he's a Sagittarius. Since he retired, Cindy, within the scope of his medical practice, he was highly respected. And I've seen him work. He has been the doctor of a couple of friends of mine. So he's a wonderful doctor. But now that he's retired, he's become something of a pariah in his town. He writes these letters to the editor, which really inflame a lot of the community. At his church, he's alienated a lot of people. And his wife and I were talking, and I said, because he's a Sag, I said, he's a warrior. When he was a doctor and in practice, he was fighting to heal people. That's what he was fighting for. And he was top notch at that. What does he have to fight now? Nothing but politics. He's retired. And he feels like he doesn't matter. He mattered tremendously as a doctor. Now he's retired, but he still needs a battle. And when people are like that, when people are natural warriors, it's important for them to realize they can always win if they fight for something rather than against something else. Because fighting against things means you're identifying with that negative thing you're fighting. So you are the flip side of that coin. If you're fighting something and opposed to something, think about what the opposite is, the thing that you really are for, and then fight for that rather than wasting your time engaging with the negative side of it. And you'll always win.
It's true. It's so true. I love what you have said so far in this interview, and even about the moon. I think not a lot of people really focus on the moon, too much on the sun. I wish people, hopefully they're listening to this, moon is very important. Having afflicted moon, meaning like maybe Saturn with the moon, or it's squared, or it's a waning moon, or a waxing moon. It's all very different. So how you receive things and being conscious. So that's where a lot of these conscious and unconscious or self-awareness happens within those time period. And it's all a matter of fact of learning who you are, getting your belief system. There's free will. That's what we talked about. And how horary or astrology or natal astrology or event astrology timing will actually help you to make you a better person or a healing path or understanding your situation. But astrology does not dictate this is destiny for the rest of your life. And you have that option, like Robert was saying today, that you have the will to change your life and to understand. I think about being on this earth is all about learning you, owning up your mistakes, owning up the goods and the bad, and be happy. I'm not saying settle for it, but I'm also saying, like, here's an opportunity and a tool that you can use. Robert, if somebody wants to do a reading with you on a horary or a natal astrology, where can they find you?
They can find me online if they go to Google and type in Robert Glasscock, astrologer, and they can contact me through my website. This has certainly been a pleasure, Cindy.
It's been a wonderful way that we have communicate. Like I said, Gemini is all about communication and networking. And Robert, I know that you also teach as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I teach for Kepler College periodically and love it.
Perfect. So, and right now you are teaching a course. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, Cindy, I had done a seminar, a webinar last November the 4th on solar arcs, actually, and made some predictions about the Trump administration and so on. And there were about 45 people, I guess, in that webinar from around the world, and they requested a practicum of 5 weeks long just to, practice using solar arcs. So we did, and then they wanted an extension. So we did another 5 weeks using solar arcs. Then they wanted another extension, which today was the final one in that series of 5. And now we're going into a 4th series of 5 more workshops on solar arcs coming up. So
I love it.
so those classes are all available on Kepler College's website. It's wonderful. I got to plug them. They contacted me about 7 or 8 years ago, and I knew one of the women who had founded the thing, asking me if I would be interested in teaching. And then, of course, I am. And they've been around for over 20 years. They are undoubtedly the single astrology organization offers the most variety and the most consistent scheduling of many of their webinars are free.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a huge variety of really good astrologers and courses and so on for people that might be interested in studying.
Yeah, so if you're an astrologer practicing either your Vedic or Western or any type of astrology, and if you want to take courses, that's where Robert is. I have seen him work his magic on horary, and it's excellent. He's an excellent teacher from my experience as well, and that's why I got him on my show as well. So Robert, thank you so much. Anybody who's is interested in getting a reading from Robert, I'll put a description down below, and as well as courses that he might be teaching, that will be linked down below as well. And Robert, thank you so much for coming on. And if you guys have any question, please leave a comment down below. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share this video as well. All right, bye now.